chapter 15. And the Spirit of God came upon Azariah, the son of Obed, and he went out to meet Asa, and said unto him, Hear ye me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you while you are with him, and if you seek him, he will be found of you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you. Now for a long season Israel was without the true God, and without a teaching priest, and without a law. But when in their distress they turned unto the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him, he was found of them. And in those times there was no peace to him that went out, nor to him that came in, but great discomfitures were upon all the inhabitants of the lands. And they were broken in pieces, nation against nation, and city against city, for God did discomfit them with all manner of adversity. But be you strong, and let not your hands be slack, for your work shall be rewarded. And when Asa heard these words, even the prophecy of Obed the prophet, he took courage and put away the detestable things out of the land of Judah and Benjamin, and out of the cities which he had taken from the hill country of Ephraim. And he renewed the altar of the Lord, that was before the porch of the Lord. And he gathered all Judah and Benjamin, and them that sojourned with them out of Ephraim and Manasseh, and out of Simeon. For they fell to him out of Israel in abundance, when they saw that the Lord his God was with him. So they gathered themselves together at Jerusalem in the 3rd month, in the 15th year of the reign of Asa. And they sacrificed unto the Lord in that day of the spoil which they had brought 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep. And they entered into the covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, and with all their heart and with all their soul. And whosoever would not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, should be put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman. And they swore unto the Lord with a loud voice, and with shouting, and with trumpets, and with horns. And all Judah rejoiced at the oath, for they had sworn with all their heart, and sought him with their whole desire, and he was found of them. And the Lord gave them rest round about. And also Maacah, the mother of Asa the king, he removed her from being queen, because she had made an abominable image of an Asherah. And Asa cut down her image, and made dust of it, and burnt it at the brook of Kidron. But the high places were not taken away out of Israel. Nevertheless the heart of Asa was whole all his days. And he brought into the house of God the things that his father had hallowed, and that he himself had hallowed, silver and gold and vessels. And there was no more war unto the 35th year of the reign of Asa. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. We remember last chapter, the Asa had begun to reign, and he had done them things that was right before the Lord. He broke down. One of the first things that Asa did was begin to tear down all these high places that was in Israel, and destroy all their pillars, and these groves they would be called. These would be the plantings of these evergreen trees to mark these places of worship, and this thing that God said you should not do. And he began to hew all these things down, and we'll find that God gave him great victories. God had given him great victories even in battle. And we're going to pick it up here in verse 1. We're going to continue now in this rule, or this example God gave us of Asa. Asa being the one who heals the injured. He is the son of Abiam, which is my father's God. Verse 1. And the Spirit of God came upon Azariah, the son of Obed. And the Spirit of God would be this word, this understanding, the knowledge of God came upon Azariah. Azariah is this one who is helped of God. He is the helped of God, or helped by God, the one who's supported by God and helped out. He would be the one to come forth, or the son of Obed. Obed is the servant, too. And he went out to meet Asa, and said unto him, Hear you me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you, while you are with him. And if you seek him, he will be found of you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you. And he goes out and he meets Asa. Asa's that one who heals the injury. And Azariah tells him to listen. Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin, and Judah's those praisings, even that son of my right hand, this work, even this one that goes forth from the work. God says, the Lord is with you while you are with him. As long as you are with God in accordance with the law, we'll find out that's what happened before. They disobeyed the law. God punished. Now they're back in the law. See, they're just taking out all the high places, we'll find out. And all these things is being destroyed, and they're turning to God. They're turning to the law. And God's going to bless them. He's with them as long as they are with him. And if they seek him, he will be found. He can be found if you put your whole heart to seek the Lord. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you if you disobey his law. To disobey the law, we'll get into this in a minute, is to transgress against God. And before the law there was no sin, and God gave us the law to separate us, those that can hear the law, from those that can't. 3. Now for long seasons Israel was without the true God, and without a teaching priest, and without law. And for a long period of time, these long seasons, and this would be for an extended period of time, Israel was without the true God. And this true God is to have a true understanding, to be obedient to God, to know this God of judgment, this God who set this law, this creator who created all things, and who give us the law. And there's no teaching priest. There's no one who's got understanding, see, because God takes it away. God has the ability to just take the understanding away in transgression, when they transgress. And that's what happens, see, when you transgress, you have to ask God to turn you back, because you've turned, and you'll have to humble yourself before the Lord and the law. 4. But when in their distress they turned unto the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him, he was found of them. See, and in the moment they turned in their distress, because it's God who distresses, because, see, it's the easy, the smooth path, the path that leads you somewhere quickly and smoothly. If you get off of it, there's trouble. There's trouble. You're going to have a little rougher go of it, see, because the Lord does not prosper you in that path. That would be the path of non-observance, to not observe the law. 5. In those times there was no peace to him that went out, nor to him that came in, but great discomfitures were upon all the inhabitants of the lands. And all the lands, and we'll find out these great discomfitures were caused by God. It was God that did this. It's an automatic thing through the judgment of the law. See, there we go all the way back to the garden, when they didn't think if they ate the fruit they would die. We use the fruit as a similitude. They didn't think if they disobeyed God's law they would live, but as soon as they disobeyed God's law, we find out they died. They became mortal. 6. And they were broken in pieces, nation against nation, and city against city, for God did discomfort them with all manner of adversity. And they were broken in pieces, and this broken in pieces was set one against another, nation against nation, city against city. See, there's a place with guard against guard. These are those understandings of men where they sit there and protect inside that city. And these nations against nations, governments against governments. See, God causes this strife in the land. God does that. Why? They had turned from God, see, and God was punishing. 7. But be ye strong, and let not your hands be slack, for your work shall be rewarded. Because sooner or later, you're going to come to your senses, see, because it's all the work of God. God's got to finish his work. See, God's got to finish his work. For we'll find that first there's some judgment, and then you get your little rightful recompense or your reward. 8. And when Asa heard these words, even the prophecy of Obed the prophet, he took courage and put away the detestable things out of the land of Judah and Benjamin, and out of the cities which he had taken from the hill country of Ephraim, and he renewed the altar of the Lord that was before the porch of the Lord. And see, when Asa heard these words, it was the prophecy of Obed. Obed's that servant. It's the prophecy, these words that he spoke, to not let your hands be slack. See, not let your works be slack. Keep up your works, and these works are going to be the work of God in that which you do, because you're making an example. It takes a period of time. We'll see, God's got generations to wait. He proves himself from generation to generation. And when Asa and these words that Obed spoke, Asa knew. He went out and he tore down all these high places, because that's what Asa was doing, destroying the high places. These high places that they'd made on every corner, all these places that they had set up to go worship on their other altars, these other alternative altars, we'll call them, these not a God altars that God had given all the other nations to worship. Unto you, though, he said, you shall not do this. Even these ones that was taken out of Ephraim, Ephraim's that double-fruited. And this is why I call them the double-fruited, because they did serve more than one God. And the bear fruit of more than one kind is that which is double-fruited, I call it. And we'll see, Asa renews this porch, this altar before the porch. And we remember the porch. It's that which is attached to the house, there at the gate, and that is that place of judgment. 9. And he gathered all Judah and Benjamin, and them that sojourned with them, out of Ephraim and Manasseh, and out of Simeon, for they fell to him out of Israel in abundance, when they saw that the Lord his God was with him. And he gathered those of Judah and Benjamin, and these were all those that was there already in those cities that was being controlled by the king of Judah, we'll call him. These would be those that would be later called Jews, and those of Judah and Benjamin. And we'll see those people come from Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simeon. Ephraim, those of double-fruited. Manasseh, those that cause to forget. And out of Simeon, those that have heard, those that hear. For they fell away unto him out of Israel. And this means they came to him because they was over there serving these other altars. But when they seen God was with Asa, they came over to him. 10. So they gathered themselves together at Jerusalem in the 3rd month, in the 15th year of the reign of Asa. And they would gather themselves together at Jerusalem. That's that place of peaceful teachings, or them teachings of peace. And in the 3rd month, and this 3rd month would be that third, that would be a portion of the whole. See, a whole being a year. This 3rd month, or the 3rd moon, and that's to complete that portion that completes this understanding, or that cycle of the lesser light in the 15th year. And that would be grace is in the law. See, 10 and 5 is the law has grace, even a portion. There's a portion of the law that's grace. In the greater understanding, we'll find out even of the reign of Asa, and he is that one that heals. 11. And they sacrificed unto the Lord in that day of the spoil which they have brought 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep. And this is all that which they would take over when they would go in, we'll find, and take over these areas according to what God was giving them charge to do. 700 oxen was part of their spoil. 700, because see, it's perfect judgment. It's the accomplishment of judgment even in these oxen. And these oxen are those greater cattle, these greater herd that's going to be caused to pull or do this work, plow, and 7,000 sheep. And that's to accomplish the fulfillments even of the sheep, that lesser cattle, these that perfect these fulfillments. 12. And they entered into the covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, with all their heart and with all their soul. And all those that were gathered there, they enter to this covenant, which, of course, they've entered into this same covenant many times. It's that same covenant to do according to what God says. Yes, the God of their fathers. And with all their heart and with all their soul, that with all your understanding and all your desire to keep the law. And that whosoever would not seek the Lord the God of Israel should be put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman. Where feminine or masculine, these that would not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, that's who we're talking about, should be put to death according to the law. God said, you shall not commit murder. You shall not. That would be a violation of law. So every man would have his judgment. Every man would be brought according to the law. See, don't just think this is a willy-nilly, everybody running around killing people. If they think you're a violation of the law, I'm going to put you to death, because that's not the way it works. It never works that way. There's always order. If there's a crime committed, it's according to the law, even the law of God, that they should be punished, and those that would require death would be put to death. 14. And they swore unto the Lord with a loud voice, and with shouting, and with trumpets, and with horns. And they swore unto the Lord with a loud voice, this great cry out, even with shouting. That's to lift up your voice with these trumpets, these warnings, and these horns. These horns, even these warnings of the horn, these blowings of the horn, that's the shofar, and to give warning. And that is the ram's horn, to blow from it. Even the sound of these twisted things that we can hear, and they make themselves known. 15. And all Judah rejoiced at the oath, for they had sworn with all their heart, and sought him with their whole desire, and he was found of them, and the Lord gave them rest round about. And Judah, all those of praisings, rejoiced. Everybody was at that oath, because it was the covenant which God had took them in the beginning. See, make yourself obedient to my law and live, as what God said. And also, Maacah, the mother of Asa, the king, he removed her from being queen, because she had made an abominable image for an Asherah. And Asa cut down her image, and made dust of it, and burned it at the brook of Kidron. And Maacah, we remember Maacah is that pleasantness, that beautiful, pleasant sickness, weakness, disease, and that it appears to be pleasant, it appears to be beautiful, but it's not. We're going to find out. Asa, the king, this one who heals the injury, removes her from being a queen, and that's that feminine ruler, because she had made an abominable image, and this image she had made, we won't even describe it or go into what it looks like, because it really doesn't matter. It was an image that somebody whittled up for her. It was an Asherah, and that was where they could go to worship this and to see it. And these Asherahs, these groves, these images they would make and set there. Once again, these high places they were called, or these places of worship. God said, you shall not do this thing. And Asa cut down her image, and he did, because it was just something that could be hewn down. And he made dust of it. It was ground into dust, and he burned it. And it was gone. It was forgotten at the brook of Kidron. Kidron means to darken. It's actually an act of darkening. See, because that's what these images do. 17. But the high places were not taken away out of Israel. Nevertheless, the heart of Asa was whole all his days. But these high places were not taken away out of Israel. These other parts of Israel, where we're going to find out there was a peace for a while in the land, and these high places that still remained are going to be those things that cause great harm later. They always do, because they turn to these images which they will create, and nobody has any understanding. 18. And he brought into the house of God the things that his father had hallowed, and that he himself had hallowed, silver and gold and vessels. And he brings into the house of God all these things his father had hallowed. Abiyah, that was who his father was. and that he himself had hallowed or set aside. Hallowed means to be set aside and has a purpose. It's not just sanctified, it's hallowed, it's dedicated for a purpose. Even this silver and this gold and vessels, this silver, those things that are going to pass through the fire, and that's what they represent, those things that have been purified, made pure, and this gold, those things that belong to God. God represents all those things that do belong to God, and these vessels, those things which do contain it. 19. And there was no more war unto the 35th year of the reign of Asa. And there was no more war, and these wars were over, because God will gives rest once again to the land. But there's going to be war. There's going to be war. God's not done. And there was peace in the 35th year of the reign of Asa. There's grace. See, there's grace in these 3:10s. That's to complete the law, even that portion of the greater understanding of it, because it's dedicated. 30 is to be dedicated. That means that to complete the law, there's got to be a purpose, and that's what that is. It's dedicated for the purpose of a greater understanding. Even this reign of Asa, this example God made then, God's always making an example in the earth, trying to prove himself great, trying to prove himself marvelous, trying to show you God can do work too. And we'll move forward here. Chapter 16. Turn and return.